What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast here. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. How we doing today, Casino?
Good. I'm just finishing up some sushi. Yeah, pretty great.
It looks delicious. I don't know why I can hear you so clearly when your microphone is away, and yet mine needs. We have the same microphone, and yet mine needs to be like right.
You told me to go
on
buy
my
this
mouth.
one, so I did.
I know it. You sound great, and yet for me to be able to hear me, I literally need to be right up on it. So, here we are. But we are back, Casino. It's been a long minute, the 2 days since we last recorded, but it is our final division preview today, and we are doing the NFC North, which was a division that, at least on paper, looks much better than I thought three of these teams looked. Because I had question marks about the Packers, but then when you dive into the Vikings, the Bears, and the Packers, I think they're all really good. Like, this division is going to be very, very good. I think Vikings underrated.
I'm all on board with the Packers. You're gonna have to sell me a little bit on the Bears and the Vikings, especially the Vikings.
I'll tell you what, I liked what I saw from the Vikings when I was doing the research, but we'll get into that in a minute. Next Tuesday, we're doing MVP, what teams we think will make the playoffs. We'll recap what we talked about with all these division ones, and we'll officially make our Super Bowl picks. I just saw a funny meme. Yeah, it made me laugh. And then a week from today, I can't believe it's here. Opening kickoff is a week from today, Casino. Today we're recording on Thursday. Next Thursday, it's going to be what I believe it's Ravens Chiefs. Yes, it is Ravens Chiefs next Thursday. Yeah, so we'll make a pick for that game on Thursday's episode next week. On today's, I wanted to, before we get into NFC
Start off with
North,
some hot takes.
Yeah, there has been also whenever
cakes, like not hot cakes like BJ's butt, but hot takes.
I have been told I'm caked up, so sorry to anybody not.
You are caked up.
I'm sorry to anybody not seeing the bottom half of me. We'll do a full body episode one day.
No. You see my full body. I just stand up all the time. So,
and you know what's crazy?
Go for it. What?
What's crazy, Casino, is I was just thinking, this is now we're going into our third year of doing this. We live in the same neighborhood, or not the same neighborhood. We live in the same city. We have hung out multiple times since doing this podcast. And we have never done a podcast in the same room. That's weird.
Well, how would we do that? We don't have multiple cameras.
Yeah, but we would just use one camera. We'd both be on it, and then it would just be one giant screen.
Do you think we can fit in that? Do you think that I can fit in that? I mean, I know I've lost 15 pounds. Can you tell? Apparently, we can't tell. So BJ, he took a snapshot of us the other day and sent it into our guys group chat, and one of our friends commented on it that made me feel pretty good about myself in the most horrible way.
Wait, I have to show the screenshot.
Oh. God damn it. Yeah. And so our buddy goes, you in real life, I probably weigh 50 pounds heavier than you, but yeah, we photographed the same. God damn. Like it was a dagger to the chest. It was
It was such a mean comment that it came all the way around and made it funnier. Like, when something's so mean, it's funny.
I audibly just like gagged, like laughed. It was like one of those like it was fantastic. I wouldn't expect anything less from our group, but it was great. But
really made me laugh.
I really want to know what I looked like 15 pounds ago, with more fat, because yes, I've lost 15 pounds, but I've also know that I've gained more muscle and lost more fat, but my weight's staying the same. But I feel better, all the things. But the fact that I look like that, I'm glad you didn't take that picture, a month and a half ago.
I just can't wait till you get all in shape, and then
it's gonna happen. It's finally gonna happen.
Get a tan. I feel like that'll really benefit this podcast.
I'm gonna be going to Hawaii next year in July, so finally our family's going to be going back, which I can't wait. It's been too long. Um,
I've
so
never
I
been to Hawaii.
It's
Never been.
nice. It's nice. It is actually nice. Everything they say about it, even when there's like a tropical storm, it's really nice.
No or actually a little segue here, Casino, because
Segu.
Segu, when I think of tropical, I think of either Hawaii or Miami, right? You like that segue, Casino?
No, I don't.
Okay, how about
I
this?
hate Miami. I've been to Miami once in my life. I stepped outside and I immediately had a shower again. The swamp ass is real, and I could being a desert rat, going to the humidity like that. Like, there's a difference. Like the tropic humidity over in Hawaii it was nice because there was always like a breeze coming through, so it felt good. Miami, dude, Miami was just oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if you live in I'm sorry if you live in Miami. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, when we went to New Orleans, it rained the night we got in, and the next day it was like that air you just feel like you're like you can feel yourself moving through it, like the stale air. Ugh, the
Yeah.
just awful. But we have a dry heat. We have a dry heat. How
And
about this for us?
I will die on that hill.
I agree. How about this for a Segu casino? If you want to lose weight, you definitely shouldn't eat a lot of beef. Oh, speaking of beef, Brian Flores and Tua Tagovailoa are in a beef casino, and apparently they have been since the Miami days where Brian Flores was the coach. Came from the Bill Belichick coaching tree, which apparently means you have to just be a straight up asshole that players don't like. Like that's the Bill Belichick coaching tree legacy.
Right.
You hear, I mean, nobody has a nice thing to say about Matt Patricia from when he was in Detroit. Darius Slay almost like didn't re-sign with the Eagles because they brought him in just as a consultant. So you hear the same things about Brian Flores. So the story goes that Tua Tagovailoa was on the Dan Le Batard show, and he asked him about Brian Flores, and he described him as a terrible person and basically went on a tirade about what a piece of shit he is, and how basically when Brian Flores was the coach, repeatedly told him he was a terrible quarterback. He wanted Justin Herbert, but the owner was the only reason he was there, and basically just shit talked him. And if we remember in his rookie year, he like benched him 3 or 4 separate times for I believe Ryan Fitzpatrick before finally that season ended, and then he got fired and replaced with Mike McDaniel, which now Tua has only nice things to say because I really feel like Mike McDaniel is like the ultimate players coach. I don't
All
think you'll
day.
ever hear a bad thing
And
about him.
so that's my whole thing about this. Like Brian Flores played he was a coach for the Patriots for a very long time. You know, under Belichick with all those other coaches, you're going to be very systematic on how you work and you don't put up with bullshit.
Yes.
So Tua is just part of this new age. I mean, I'm just gonna say it, the younger generation where they can't take things off the chin. Everything is very personal to them. So I'm gonna defend Flores on this. Like, okay, hold on a sec. Keep going.
So Flores said he did a weird press conference response to it where he basically had 2 like defensive linemen from the Minnesota Vikings standing next to him in a press conference and was basically like, yeah, I was an asshole, but I'd be willing to talk about it. And like, paraphrase a little. It basically, he kind of took accountability without apologizing for it, which I'm almost impressed by. Almost impressed by the guy who's like, yeah, everything he said was correct. And, I won't do that in the future. But there's no like, I feel bad. I'm sorry. He basically, the extent he went to was like, I'll talk to him about it if he's up for it. And then he said, how can I Flores said, and this is from the New York Times, Flores said he wished he could continued success for Tua as well as nothing but the best, but Flores added the comments affected him a way he wouldn't say was positive. I've got to use that and say, how can I grow from that? How can I be better? That's really where I'm at from this standpoint. Flores said, do I feel like that's me? No. But how can I grow from that situation and create a world where that's not the case, where everyone says that about Brian Flores? Again, a weird, like, not committal thing where he's just like, I mean, that doesn't sound like me, but could be. That's what it sounded like. It literally, again, he didn't deny it so much as be like, not me now. And it's like, yeah, because you're not the head coach. You're also the defensive coordinator. So you're probably not, you know, beefing with the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, which is Sam Darnold. So he would have more of a case to bully Sam Darnold, I guess, than he would Tua. But I get what Casino's saying, where times have changed and it's like, oh, you always hear the Bill Belichick stories because, you know, he's from the Bill Belichick coaching tree. So you always hear the stories of, you know, Bill Belichick like chastising Tom Brady as if he's like the third string, saying they got better guys. And this is after he's won, you know, 5 Super Bowls, right? 4 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls, still giving him that tough coaching. But again, Tom Brady is one of those guys who's come out and said, I like to be coached and I like to be coached hard to get
Right.
like, because he's a psycho. I mean, whenever
It worked.
well, that's what I'm saying. But it also gets to a point where you also get tired of it and it gets tiresome.
Yeah,
and
20 years.
Well, but that was also one of the reasons why he was like, I'm not going to finish my career here because I'm tired of it. Like, I'm just, and again,
yeah, and that's fine. He did what he had to do, and he wanted to go and have a little bit of fun elsewhere. Finally. So anyway,
but
I'm go. I want to get back to what I was going to say.
Well, no, I was just going to say that but again, to be that type of head coach, you also have to have some sort of resume to warrant that. Like, if Bill Belichick can be like that because he won 6 Super Bowls, he won 2 with the Giants, and it's like, yeah, he has the rings and the hardware. Brian Flores, I don't even think he was a bad coach. He was a good coach on a team that was clearly tanking and made that team way better than they were supposed to be. But
right. I totally agree.
But also just shitting on your first round quarterback and talking shit about you wanting a quarterback you're never going to have. I don't see how that helps literally your team, anybody on the team. It's not like Ryan Fitzpatrick was this diamond in the rough that came in and was, you know, an all-pro.
He did beat Brady on that last game, though.
I mean, that's true. But
what I was going to say is, yes, you got to have some tough love when it comes to football. I hate hearing about these players like, oh, this coach was a little too tough on me. It's football. It's football. Like, everything that I've known about football, coaches are tough. Stop whining about it. And we've talked about it plenty on this podcast and over the last 3 years. Is Tua Tagovailoa, is he good, or is it just Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill is better. Like, what is it? You know? So I there's a lot of talk. Yes, he got paid, and I think that thinks that he's justified.
Well, it's one of those things where since he got paid, it feels like now he is protected in a sense, where now he can just feel like he has, you know, enough sway, especially in the organization, to voice his displeasure, even not with his current head coach, but, you know, the former head coach that obviously worked there and was technically his boss, even though I would feel better if, you know, I was the player and the owner sided with me over the coach. That kind of feels like the boss is making the decision. But yeah, I just think to be a great coach in any sport, you just have to know how to coach every player, right? So there will be some players, especially if you're a defensive coach, there will be some players on the defensive side who will be like, yeah, be an asshole to me, hype me up. But then there's going to be some other guys that just want a pat on the back and to be told that they're doing pretty good, right? So I feel like being a great coach and even being a good to great coach is identifying what players respond to what. You can't teach everybody the same exact way because
Yeah, but
Everybody's
you also have
different.
to have a player willing to accept that. And that's just
Yeah, but if you're Tua, you're a first round pick going into the NFL for the first time, and you hear your head coach being like, "You fucking suck. We don't even want you on this team. You're garbage. You can't play." Like, then you're going to be like, "What the hell did I do? I didn't draft me.
okay. But
You
I also
drafted
don't
me."
like okay, fair point. But I don't like how Tua came out and he was talking about, oh, it's a quarterback driven league. Offense is what matters. I mean, yes, defense and the other players like are important too. Like literally that's how he says it in his quote. And that's annoying to me. What have we talked about for the last multiple years? Like last year's a great one. They had a good offense, right? The Chiefs. But what won in that Super Bowl? Defense. What won Peyton Manning's last Super Bowl? Super Bowl 50. Defense. Patriots won their last Super Bowl against the Rams with defense. Like you're saying it's a quarterback driven league, but I've seen plenty of Super Bowls won or playoff runs had with mediocre quarterbacks or quarterbacks past their prime when the defense is good. Or you have star players on a wide receiver or a running back that make you somewhat relevant. Like the Falcons getting to that one Super Bowl against the Patriots. Matty Ice, he was a mediocre quarterback. He just had about 1,000 weapons. So,
Well, Andy had the
it, it,
greatest head coach who's ever lived as his offensive coordinator, Kyle
so
Shanahan. Yeah.
it I guess see both points. Yet don't be a dick to your quarterback, but also if you want to be a franchise quarterback and you want to turn this team around, you said it yourself. They were tanking, right? They were
Yeah.
tanking, and Brian Flores brought them out. He needed more time to bring them out. And okay, you're not doing what we wanted you to do right away. You're fired. And plus Flores was. You got to give him a little bit of leeway here because he was also battling with the whole Giants. I think it was the Giants coaching job issue and the whole race thing going on. So he had
No,
a lot on his.
that was with Miami.
Oh,
That's
that was
why
with Miami.
it was,
But what
but it
was
was
it? It was
during the fact. It was
well,
like
Giants
during
offered him a
and
coaching job too, right? Was it what the thing was?
yeah, something like that. But
Something
yeah,
like
he had
during that whole thing, he had a
yeah.
lot going on, so he was frustrated. So if you get a little bit of flack from your star player, your star quarterback at the time, like I would be a little pissed off too. It's like, shut up. This is my plan. You're either in or you're out. You want to make a shit ton of money. You're injured coming into the league. A lot of people weren't sure if you were going to play. Yes, Fitzpatrick isn't the greatest quarterback, but he has proven himself. Even in big games, he's proven himself. So I'm going to lean this way. You need some more time to heal. You need more time to study. And, we still question it every single year. Is Tua a top quarterback? We have that same question every year that we talk.
Yeah, but on the flip side, we never are like, why isn't Brian Flores still a head coach? So by that same metric, like it's not like his way was effective to a point. But
Well, we've
again,
seen all these coaches, head coaches, Flores, McDaniels, Patricia, all these coaches that worked under Belichick try to go and do the Belichick system elsewhere. It doesn't work.
yeah.
They try to keep it that way and it doesn't work. That's why this year I'm really excited for Gerard Mayo because he's keeping some of the defense mindset, but he's changing some things up. So go Patriots, but we're going to suck. Anyway, I'm excited for him as a head coach. All right. Good point.
Yeah.
Maybe I was just a homer on that, but
Yeah, I just think also I talked about it when you were off
oh,
mic, but did you see Brian Flores' response where he had like two, because he's now the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator. He had two defensive linemen just standing next to him during his press conference. It
yeah.
was weird. Weird.
Those
But
enforcers, that's great.
but Casino, we move from one beef. This isn't a single. This is a double.
Double B.
Because we have double beef on today's show, and that is Deion Sanders and the Colorado football team, college football team, that is, versus Paul Feinbaum, and I put it in quotes, the media, because I keep hearing that it's Deion Sanders versus the media when it is literally one guy from like the the Denver Post or whatever, and it got blown out of proportion because, of course, anytime athlete or a politician or somebody attacks the media, we then have to listen to all these hot takes from people in the media defend themselves as if they're the second coming of what is it, any religious figure you like
Great say.
give your thoughts on this, because I'm about to do a rant on this. I know you love my rants.
I do love your rants. My so kind of brief it. He's he was talking about Colorado football not being relevant, and it's not even relevant to the big picture of college football, let alone the NFL, and basically just talking shit about Sanders in Colorado and this and that. Um, you know what? I've been an advocate for breaking up these giant conferences and breaking up all of these, the super teams and this and that. I really like that there's this transfer portal and people can. The only time I'm going to defend it is where players can get paid and go to colleges if colleges can afford it. If they can afford it, I still don't like it in a grand scheme of things, but it can make little schools like Colorado relevant as long as you got a big name behind it, which apparently Paul is saying is not. If I read that right in my short research,
Yes.
Go for it.
I'm just so the issue that Paul Feinbaum had with Deion Sanders. Oh, we'll see what's happening with that. The issue that Paul Feinbaum had with Deion Sanders was first started when Deion Sanders and the Colorado organization basically told one of the reporters, I'm trying to find his name here, I should have written this down, but they said that basically one of the reporters could not ask questions at the press conferences from now on because basically Deion Sanders does not like him. It was from the Denver Post, so I did get that right. It was columnist Sam Keeler and it was, he is no longer allowed to ask questions at Colorado press conferences because of, end quote, a series of sustained personal attacks, which I read like a thing where it was basically like, yeah, like he just went after Deion Sanders like nonstop, whatever.
Isn't that what the media is supposed to do, though?
But see, this is where my issue came from. So then you were correct on what Paul Feinbaum said, where he was basically like, Colorado is irrelevant, which I would actually argue against because, again, nobody was talking about Colorado before Deion Sanders got there. So how are they irrelevant if they're constantly talked about on all these shows?
Exactly. Like you bring a name in and people are going to pay attention.
Yeah. So what Paul Feinbaum said, he said, Paul Feinbaum, so then Sanders said, Paul Feinbaum's full of shit.
How many times are you going to say his name?
I just like saying it. It's a good name. Rolls off the tongue. But he said, if we are so irrelevant, like the fan only blows when you're hot, so he won't stop talking about us, which is a great line.
That was solid. That's almost as good as take that for data.
So Feinbaum said of Sanders' criticisms, and I quote, he called me a dying breed in the profession, which I'm proud of because I really do believe that the media should be treated with respect and not have selective persecution like he is using out there. Not only with this reporter from Denver, but all other reporters as well. Shut the fuck up. No, no, they shouldn't. The media should be treated with respect. Why? Why should we ever respect the media?
No,
the
I hate the media.
Their whole thing is to get you upset and talking and to kick you when you're down. So like
try to catch you tripping.
Yeah. So this Denver Post guy.
Do kids say that now? I don't know.
Well, also it's like, it's not the media. So that's why I put media in quotes. Stop saying the media. It's this one asshole from the Denver Post who they're like, listen, you can come to the stadium, you can cover the team. You're not allowed to ask questions in the press conference afterwards. That's not disrespecting the media. That's being like, hey, dickhead, you can only say so much shit about me before I'm just going to be like, I'm not talking to you anymore. This obsession we have where it's like the media should be allowed to say whatever they want. It's like, yeah, but guess what? Nobody has to talk to you or answer you. So you can say whatever the fuck you want. But then when somebody goes, I'm not talking to you because I don't like what you say, this like uproar just being like, well, we have to respect the media. Like, no, we don't.
Yeah.
The media has never done anything to earn anyone's respect. All they do is lose it.
That's why I've always absolutely loved, obviously being a Patriot fan, always talking about it. Coach Belichick during his press conferences, people asking questions, and then he just says something completely opposite, or he'll say like 2 words and then just move on, and then the person's like, but next question. But what? Like, you're right. You don't have to answer the questions, but you also don't have to be very sensitive. Like, if you don't want to answer it, just don't answer. Just don't call them. Don't respond to them. If they ask something stupid or say something stupid, just laugh and just call it a day.
And this is where the misinformation of, again, the media comes into play. The Colorado, well, the Colorado school and Deion Sanders did not come out personally and say this. The Denver Post is the one that came out and was like, this guy's being banned from asking questions because they think he's an asshole. So this was not a thing the school or Deion Sanders came out and like showed a spotlight on, right? This was the Denver Post sticking up for their columnists, which good on them for sticking up for their employee. But then again, the talking heads on TV then try to spin it as like Deion and the college did this personally. And it's like, no, they didn't. They kept it in-house. They did it behind closed doors. And then you look through the window and then acted like they were showing you it. Like, no, they didn't. So this thing where it's like, also, they didn't ban the guy from the school. He can't ask his dumb questions at the press conference, which also, sports press conferences may be the most useless press conferences on the planet. How many times you play a football game? How many times can you ask, how do you stop the other team's best player? What do you plan on doing to win?
What did you see on this play?
Yeah, it's like, have you ever watched a sports press conference? They're boring as shit, and the reporters ask the same 6 questions. Like, oh no, we're going to be denied. The Denver Post asking questions like, what'd you see out there? And then it's just like, okay, again, it's like, I don't give a shit about Colorado. I don't give a shit about Deion Sanders. But like this insane notion where it's like he disrespected the media and we have to respect the media. In no field do we have to respect the media, nor should we. Respect is earned, not just you're supposed to have it. Like, shut the fuck up. Ugh. I hate it. And also,
man, you brought the energy today.
Well, this also isn't a political thing. Casino knows me better than anybody. My politics are all over the fucking map.
Yeah.
I'm not voting for left or right. So like this whole like lying media thing, it's not tied to any political affiliation.
But the media is going to make it that way because the politicians on every side, they own the media. We know this, even in sports media, because they want things driven their way, to persuade people into this 2-party system. Oh gosh, my son's gonna get
on that note, Casino, we can move on. I just had to get that rant in there, and then I lit for the first time, I don't know, in 10 years, maybe since the last clip I watched. I don't know. I tried to watch First Take because they had Paul Feinbaum on there, so I was like, oh, I'll listen to his side of the story. That show is unlistenable. It's unlistenable and unwatchable. It's just, I watched like an 18-minute clip. I got 7 minutes into the clip, and then I was just like, I can't listen to any more of this. First Take is god awful. So having Feinbaum on there being like, oh, well, it's like, ugh, who watches that show? And also, this is not a thing where I'm like, our show's so much better. You should watch or listen to that. That's not the argument I'm making. The argument I'm making is, how do you go to those shows like First Take and when Undisputed was on and be like, I'm going to get my sports news from them? You're just like,
Well,
ugh,
okay.
garbage.
Same thing with mainstream news channels.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. Like, that
Right.
goes
I know,
for
but
all of them.
it's still the same kind of concept, you know. It's people are told that these are the things that you're supposed to listen to and watch, and this is where you're going to get all the best information, because the media makes you want. The media tells you, oh, you have to tune into Undisputed. You have to tune into this. You
Ugh.
know, no.
Well, yeah. And I mean, that goes for everybody always shits on Fox News, rightfully so. But like, then you look at CNN and MSNBC and you're like, you can shit on Fox News all you want, but then you can't be like, but these guys are doing it right. They're all doing it the same, except one wears a blue tie, one wears a red tie.
And then
then
some wear some sports ties and they all suck.
yeah. It's awful. All right, Casino. Now that we've got the rant out of the way and now my voice hurts, we can do what we're officially here for, and that is the NFC North preview. As I said at the beginning of the show, our last division to preview, and we saved maybe the best for last because all of these teams, unlike the NFC South, all of these teams are really interesting to me. I mean, we'll talk about them in a minute, but just overall, Casino, thoughts on the NFC North heading into this season?
I like the Packers. The Bears could be interesting. I don't understand your Vikings take.
We'll get to it.
Yep. And obviously the Lions are one of my 3 picks to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, dude, I'll tell you what. You know what? Let's dive right into it. The Detroit Lions, the question really is, how does this team not make the Super Bowl? And I say that simply because looking at
pulling another Dan, that's what I'm calling him.
So last year, in order to look ahead to the future, Casino, we have to look at their past, and their past looks pretty damn good. Last year they were 12-5. They won 24-23 against the Rams in the wild card, won 31-23 against the Bucks in the divisional, and then lost in the NFC Championship game 34-31 to the 49ers, crushing everyone's hopes and dreams. Last year, they were 19th in total defense, 27th against the pass, 2nd against the run. However, their total offense, just insane. 3rd in the league in total offense, 2nd in the league in passing, 5th in the league in rushing. Their over-under going into this year is 10.5. Casino and I both picked way over. But not only that, maybe one of the only teams in history that had 2 candidates who were up for multiple head coaching jobs, both Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, and Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, both turned down all head coaching offers, decided to come back. Unprecedented move. I don't remember the last time we've ever seen that.
Yeah, because they know they can win.
I think so. And then looking into the 2024 season, according to PFF, they have the number 1 O-line in the league, the number 3 running back group in the league, the 7th best wide receiver group in the league, the 4th best defensive line in the league, and the 22nd best linebacker unit in the league. So before we get to free agency and what they did in the draft, Casino, the question is simple. How does this team not make the Super Bowl? How are they not better than they were last year?
Simple. With this new rule they put in place, with in my opinion, it's going to change the whole landscape of the football season, with the hip drop tackle, because now the games can be judged and called to whatever pleases the media and whatever pleases the pockets of Roger Goodell.
That is, I'll tell you what, if we had a spicy take button, I'd be hitting it right now, because that's a spicy take. That's actually a really good point. And
it really is. I mean, we talked a lot about the refs and how it seemed that everything would always fall like all the questionable calls would always fall in the favor of the Chiefs.
Yes.
Always. Okay. It's gonna be whichever side that Roger Goodell wants to make the money for. Because we talked about it. If it was the Lions and who was the other team that we said if they made it? Lions.
Last year they had the really sketchy end of the game in the Cowboys Lions game that was
Right.
just egregious.
Well, no,
And
I was saying there was the possibility of I don't remember which other team it would have been out of the AFC.
it was Ravens, Chiefs, and then the Ravens. I don't think there was anything screwy in that game. I think it was the game before that.
No, but what I'm getting at is ratings would have been really low if the Lions made it because where's the Lions fans out there besides Detroit? Like I know 2 Lions fans, and that's it. I don't know that many Lions fans out there, but it would have hurt the pockets of the NFL. It would have hurt the pockets of Roger Goodell having the Lions in the Super Bowl. It's not as spicy as having the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid going for a repeat or going for a three-peat coming up this year, versus the Niners, very California talked up team, or the Eagles, another big media name. So does it fit the agenda? And I don't want to be that guy to say that it's gonna there's awry afoot, but it's gonna make it so much easier. I've been saying it's gonna turn into like what the NBA is, where by rule everything can be a call to foul. And if we're gonna go by rule, almost every single tackle is gonna be called, and it could be called the hip drop tackle because try to stop Derrick Henry. Oh, what do you have to do? You have to use your weight to take him down. You can't just grab him and just wrestle him down. That's not the case. You're taking out a pivotal skill for those players that are not as big away from them. And they had their entire career getting up to this point on being able to use their weight and learning how to use leverage to tackle players and bring players down. And I really do think that this is going to change the landscape. And so therefore, that's how the Lions don't make the Super Bowl, is if the agenda doesn't fit Roger Goodell and they want the bigger names in the market make it.
So you're basically saying the only way this team does not make the Super Bowl is tomfoolery.
Mhm.
Tomfoolery.
Pretty much. I mean, if you want to
Yeah.
hear my spicy take, they're my Super Bowl pick again this year.
Ooh, that
And they're
is
my
spicy.
but here's the thing, they're my Super Bowl pick to win the whole thing.
Yeah. I also we
Not
saw
they're not just my Super Bowl pick to make it out of the NFC. I expect it to be a Ravens Lions Super Bowl and it to be one of the best Super Bowls we've seen in ages.
Dang, Casino, he woke up today and chose violence. He chose spicy
I
take.
mean, I woke up today and both my kids just slapped me in the face. Not really, but
Well, that was the Super Bowl we almost had last year, and it was the
and
NFC
that's what
Championship.
everybody wanted.
That's what everybody wanted. So you're saying they both run it back this year and finally get over the hump.
I think so.
I mean, I would love to see it. Yeah, I think
The
I'll tell you
Ravens
what.
do it because they picked up a running back, and I think the Lions do it because outside of a couple Dans, they were through.
Well, I don't see how, again, I mean, they couldn't just put it at 12 and a half because I feel like so many people would bet the under that it would push that number anyways. But having this team be the over under at 10 and a half seems insanely low when their entire coaching staff is returning. They lost no big free agents. The guys they brought in, they brought in a bunch of depth pieces. They brought in DJ Reader, the really good defensive tackle from the Bengals. They re-signed who was going to be their big free agent loss, which was Graham Glasgow, the guard. So they brought him back, and then they brought in a cornerback who is going to compete for one of the 3 starting cornerback roles in Amik Robinson from Tampa Bay. So again, you look at what they did last year, what they're projected to be this year, and when we're going to get to the Bears, which was a team that opened at the over-under at 9.5 when they were a 7-win team last year, the odds makers think this Lions team is only 1 win better than a Bears team that completely rebuilt their roster. Just outrageous casino. But I'm right there with you. I am circling around like literally 4 teams to be my Super Bowl pick. I think Detroit might be my NFC Super Bowl pick. I think the 49ers got worse. There's also the news we haven't touched on because we're not talking about the Niners, but Christian McCaffrey is injured. Trent Williams also will probably miss a couple games, maybe just the first, but he'll be out potentially. So right there, 2 your best offensive players out to start. And again, the 49ers start season 1 or week 1 against the Jets. So if the Jets are as good as everybody thinks they are, what if they lose that game? Purdy has had some issues during the preseason, so Super Bowl hangover might already have started for the Niners. So legitimately, the Eagles are a giant question mark. The Packers are a giant question mark, who we'll talk to in a minute. So with the 49ers, Eagles, Packers out of the way, who else is there besides Detroit? Like, they're the clear top dog, I think. And yeah, I think they're going to the Super Bowl.
Woof woof, motherfucker.
Let's go on to the team I just mentioned, and that was the Green Bay Packers. The question for them is, are they going to be better or worse than last year, Casino?
I don't remember what I said they were going to be. I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be better, but this still paying Jordan Love that much money this early on, where you had one half a good season, like, is mind blowing to me. Mind blowing. He showed really good potential, but we see that all the time. You gotta, if you want to be getting paid, you need to show at least 3 years of mediocre to great work. That's just in my opinion. So last
that's what
year
our jobs say about us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but go on.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But I do. This team's a young team. I really like that what they did last year, being the youngest team in the league. I really, really can see the bright future for this team as long as everything stays together. Because with young players, things can go awry really fast.
Yeah. And then I forgot to mention,
they start having a couple down days, and the next thing you know, they're in their head and we're screwed.
True. I also forgot to mention the Lions were bad against the pass on defense. They rectified that by getting their first 2 picks in the first and second round, both cornerbacks. So I think, and then they signed the Tampa Bay cornerback in the offseason. So it did look like their one weakness was pass defense, and that was the thing they immediately addressed in the offseason, which also begs the question, why does anybody think the Lions would be worse than they were last year when all they did was get better? But when it comes to the Packers, Casino, so the over under for them was 9.5. You picked over, I picked under. So I do think they were 9-8 last year. I don't think there's any reason to believe they also won't be 9-8 this year. I don't think they made any vast improvements. Now, again, you can say
the young team that worked, that have now played together a full season.
Yeah, I agree with that. They also are bringing back Matt LaFleur coming back for his 5th year. Adam Stenovich coming back for his 3rd year as the offensive coordinator. They're bringing in Jeff Heffley, who was the Boston College head coach for 4 years. He's going to be their defensive coordinator. Let's get into the numbers from last year. Last year, they were 17th in total defense, 9th against the pass, 28th against the run. So almost flipped from how the Lions defense operated. Total offense, however, they were 11th in the league, 12th in the league in passing, 15th in the league in rushing. But they tried to address the running issues, at least by being middle of the pack, by bringing in Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. They re-signed A.J. Dillon, and then to help with that 9th rated pass defense, they brought in Xavier McKinney from the Giants. But last year, as we remember, our favorite game in the playoffs, they destroyed the Dallas Cowboys 48-32, and then barely lost by 3 points to the Niners, which if it would have been a Packers Lions NFC championship game, I feel like that would have made the world a better place. But instead, we saw how that went. Going into this season, however, Casino, their O-line is ranked 14th, which I think is a concern. Their running back room is rated 6. They have the 14th rated wide receiver room, 11th rated defensive line, and 29th rated linebacker unit. So linebacker unit you can kind of just throw out because I feel like nobody really has good linebackers except I guess when we'll talk about the Vikings because for some reason all they signed was linebackers. But you look at what the Packers did last year, 9-8. But again, 9-8 after a very tumultuous beginning of the season, and then all of a sudden something clicked and this team had all the momentum behind it and they were just off to the races. So again, to say we put so much emphasis on momentum from last year carrying over to this year, or in terms of my Eagles, like collapses from last year carrying over to this year. But going into the offseason, all these teams rebuild, they refire, right? They have another year under Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and all that kind of stuff. So again, will the momentum carry over or will the bad stuff carry over is always the question going into postseason or going into the offseason, into the new season. And when it comes to the Packers, again, I like the addition they made of Josh Jacobs, but they got Josh Jacobs and a safety and then a bunch of depth pieces. So I don't know how going from the 15th best rushing attack to maybe the 12th, maybe they're, let's say they're a top 10 running back room. And then Jordan Love, they have a bunch of guys in the wide receiver room from Christian Watkins. They're kind of a committee wide receiver room, which I don't hate. I actually like this Packers wide receiver group, but they don't have, in my eyes, a star number one wide receiver like the Lions do with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So when you look at the Packers, again, they kind of just look like the team from last year, which their over-unders basically set to be the team from last year. So that's why I don't think any of their offseason improvements are that much, like nothing they did in the offseason is making me go like, this team is better. It's just making me go like, this looks like the same team from last year.
Not
And the
even
same team
Josh
from last
Jacobs.
year. Huh? I do like Josh Jacobs, but again, is he worth 1, 2, 3 more wins for this Packers team that last year had the 15th ranked rushing attack in the league? What
You
are
can
they going
call
to be
one.
10th?
You can call
So
one. I mean, because
yeah,
Josh Jacobs was that entire Raiders offense, dude.
yeah, but again, the Packers are playing against a Bears team that's going to be better, a Lions team that's going to be better, a Vikings team that I think will be maybe better than they were last year. So they're playing in a tougher division with a tougher schedule because they're playing with a second place schedule. So I just think, again, I'm not saying they're going to be bad. I think they potentially make the playoffs, but over and under for me is set at 9.5 because this is a 9-10 win team. I think that's the ceiling. Now, I'm not saying a year from now they won't be, a Super Bowl favorite, or maybe they can do some damage in the playoffs this year like they did last year. But to act like this Packers team is just now going to be a 12-win team, it's like, for what? How? But anything else to add on the Packers, Casino, or can we move on
No,
to
we
the
can
next
move
game?
on. We can move on.
Next up, the Minnesota Vikings, Casino. The question I have for you is, do you believe in Sam Darnold?
Love?
Well, we just talked about Love. Now we're
No.
talking about Darnold.
Yeah.
Do you believe in Sam Darnold?
No. I don't. I don't. So this is why I don't understand where your hype is for them.
It's not hype. I mean, the over under for this team is 7.5.
Do
Both
you
you
believe
and
in
I
Sam
said
Darnold?
under.
Do you?
No, but I
Okay.
believe in Kevin O'Connell to put together competent passing attacks. Because again, they lost what? They lost Kirk
Well,
Cousins.
hey, according to Tua, coaches don't mean shit, bro. It's a
Well,
quarterback.
he said,
It's a quarterback league.
yeah, but he said defensive coaches.
I don't care.
This
It's
is
a
an
quarterback
offensive
league. It's
coach.
well, he said it. Offense is the most important part. You have to score points, man. You have to score points, yo.
But yeah, they just had.
Sorry,
I mean,
that made me laugh.
they lost Kirk Cousins last year. They brought in Josh Dobbs and a medley of other quarterbacks, and then they still end the season as the 5th best passing offense in the league. So again, you bring in and I also like what they did in free agency because last year the Vikings finished 7-10, which is why it makes sense their over under this year is 7.5. They missed the playoffs. They had the 16th total defense last year, 24th against the pass, 8th against the run. They had the 10th total offense in the league, 5th in passing, and 29th rushing attack, which again, I don't know how you can have the 5th best passing attack and the 29th rushing attack, and somehow that makes you the 10th total offense. I've never understood that. But
Math.
yeah, they're bringing back all their coaches. Wes Phillips and Kevin O'Connell are in their 3rd year. And then, as we just talked about, Brian Flores is the defensive coordinator going into his 2nd year. So listen to this, Casino.
They're 3-0 to start the season, man.
Well, preseason.
Yeah,
But hey, this is what made me go like, maybe everybody's overlooking the Vikings. Going into 2024, PFF has their O-line rated 13th, their running back room rated 13th, their wide receiver group rated 6th, their D-line rated 30th, and then their linebacker unit rated 10th. So now, Casino, I'm going to read off what they brought over in free agency. So we just talked about Aaron Jones left the Packers to sign with the Vikings. They brought in Sam Darnold, who was on the Jets. He was on the 49ers. He was supposed to be backup to J.J. McCarthy, and then McCarthy got injured. He's out for the season. Now it's Darnold time. But here's who they brought in. They brought in linebacker Jonathan Greenyard from the Texans. They brought in linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel, one of the best names ever, from the Dolphins. They brought in linebacker Blake Cashman from the Texans. They brought in linebacker Jimmy Ward from the Giants. And then they brought in Shaquille Griffin, the cornerback who was last on the Texans. So they brought in 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe they brought in 5 total linebackers with free agency. On 4 of them were like on big money deals. So their issues last year were against the pass, apparently against tight ends in the middle of the field.
Fine. Here's the thing.
Yes.
Do you trust Sam Darnold? Like, look at your thing. Do you believe in Darnold? I don't care. I don't care if they were weaker, they got better. Do you think Darnold can compose himself and win the games? I don't.
No. Well, see, this is the thing. I'm not picking the Vikings to go to the playoffs, but I do think I might pick them over 7.5. I know I picked under, but we can make changes to this one last time before the season starts, Casino. And I might pick Vikings over because, again, the Packers 9-8.
You're wild.
9-8, and everybody's like, this is a 10-11 win team. It's like, why? All the Vikings did was get better in the areas they were bad at. And now it's just like, oh, well, this is clearly a less than 7-win team. It's just
Again,
like, I'm not seeing.
The question is, do you believe in Sam Darnold? I do not.
But see, I feel like
it's a quarterback-driven league. If you have a bad quarterback, you're done. You're done. It all comes down to the quarterback. You're done.
That's
defense is not a real thing. Defense is not a real thing.
Whoa, Tua, calm down. This is, but also, so I was trying to make the case. My hot take was going to be Vikings playoffs until I read this, and this backs up what you're saying, Casino. So on ESPN's draft or off-season tracker, they said this about Sam Darnold and what's the risk, right? So for every free agent signing they do, what it means, what's the risk. So what's the risk? I'll just read it in its entirety. Frankly, Darnold has never performed well for an extended period of time in his previous 6 seasons. His career QBR of 42.1 since 2020
And there you have
2018
it.
ranks 39th out of 43 quarterbacks who have at least 16 starts over that period. So, yeah, when he plays games, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. So,
There you go.
I was trying to get there with
No.
the Minnesota Vikings, but
No.
maybe if it was JJ McCarthy and what we saw in his brief window in the playoff or in the preseason, I would have been like, maybe. But with Sam Darnold, no.
Why are you
can't
no, now
trust
you're
him.
backing up. No. You're saying
Yeah.
this team is
Well, I was saying I was
you're
going
calling
to
this
get there.
team you're saying this team's Super Bowl bound.
No. But yeah, so now by default, I have to take the Packers over the Vikings because they have something the Vikings don't, which is a good quarterback. Not even a good quarterback, a competent quarterback. So my Vikings hype when I was reading all this, I was like, oh. And then I remembered Sam Darnold was the quarterback, and I was like, there goes my yeah, exactly. Next up, Casino, our last team we have to talk about for all the divisions, but especially the NFC North, and that is the Chicago Bears. Are they the most overhyped or underhyped offseason team?
Overhyped.
Why do you say
overhyped?
That?
They're overhyped. I like Caleb Williams. I think he's going to do okay. I'm not as big as they are on the media is. The rest of the media is about Caleb Williams. I think he's going to perform well. I think he's going to do okay. Is he going to change this entire franchise? I don't think so. He's got decent height. He's only 6'1". You know, we'll see how this goes. But I'm worried. I'm just worried.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I mean, because here's the thing. Do you think last year you had Justin Fields and he was the only shining spot on that team for the most part, the majority, right? From game to game to game. Like he was the most consistent guy. Do you think with him leaving, Caleb Williams can fill that spot? I know they brought in a few players, but do you think that Caleb Williams can do what Justin Fields did better than Justin Fields did himself?
Yes, I think Justin Fields, I feel like he in the right situation. And also, speaking of Justin Fields, it was just announced today, or I believe it was yesterday, that Russell Wilson is the
getting
Steelers.
the start.
Yeah. So he'll be a backup. I'm assuming they'll use him in some Taysom Hill
they're gonna use him, and then they're gonna realize that Russell's a joke, and they're gonna send him off home to Sierra. Why does Sierra always come up in this fucking podcast? I don't know. I may like her. I don't know.
But see, it's unfair to do the Justin Fields, Caleb Williams comparison because the teams are completely different. Like this offense was completely built anew for specifically Caleb Williams. So in free agency and just in this offseason, they brought over DeAndre Swift, who was formerly of the Eagles. They have DJ Moore, who they got in that trade with the Panthers. They brought Keenan Allen, who was formerly of the Chargers. They drafted Rome Odunze. Again, great name. They have Cole Kmet. They brought over Gerald Everett from the Chargers, and then they rebuilt this entire offensive line from last year that was injury ridden, which is also why we saw so many highlight Justin Fields runs because that O-line was absolutely god awful. So they rebuilt this entire offense in a way where it is never, this is the best the Bears offense on paper has maybe ever looked because the Bears have never had a 4,000 yard passer. I don't think they've ever had a quarterback. I believe the stat was that threw for 30 touchdowns in a season. So I do worry again. I like Caleb Williams. This is not a I'm blanking on his name. Quarterback from Carolina. What's his name?
Bryce Young.
Thank you. This is not a Bryce Young situation where it's like they should have drafted CJ Stroud, and we were even kind of hearing that before that draft even happened because of the size of Bryce Young. This is one of those things where the clear consensus pick was Caleb Williams. Everybody's like, this is going to be the best quarterback the Bears have ever had. Some are saying he's already the best quarterback the Bears have ever had. And I say,
Whoa.
do we forget Jay Cutler
I was about to
on
say,
this
whoa,
Bears team?
come on, Cutler. Let's go. Mr. Attitude.
He had the most similar personality to you and I of any player ever in the NFL. And that's why
I
both
hate that.
you and I
hate that comparison. I hate that. Oh.
You hate it because it's true. You hate it
I'm
because...
out. Can we be done?
So
I'm gonna go do my workout and go home and cry. I am already home, but I'm gonna go in my room and cry.
But last year, Casino, the Bears finished 7-10, missed the playoffs. They're over and under. Again, we were talking about this when we made our picks. It was 9.5. So many people bet on that the number actually shifted to now their over under is 8.5. So regardless of that, both Casino and I said under. I would still think I say under. I feel like this is an 8-9 team because, again, a lot of it goes on the shoulders of how good Caleb Williams will be, not to start, just over the season, right? I feel like if he has a good month this season, you don't know if defenses figure him out. You don't know if defensive coordinators find something in the film. Like, we haven't seen him play for more than a handful of snaps in the NFL so far.
See if they figure out his mechanics.
Yeah. So last year, the Bears were 12th in total defense, 25th against the pass. I did not know this till I was doing the research. They were the number 1 rush defense last year, which... interesting. But they were also 20th in total offense, 27th against the pass, 2nd in the league in running. Now, obviously, that's more attributed to Justin Fields than it was their running back room, which they completely rebuilt anyways. But their O-line going into this year, according to PFF, 11th in the league. Their running back room, 19th in the league. They have the 4th wide receiver unit in the league, which I think is generous. The defensive line, 27th in the league, and the linebacker core, 3rd in the league. So again, with a lot of these teams like the Packers and the Vikings, for them to be, and the Lions are the complete opposite, but for the other 3 teams in the NFC North, the Bears, the Packers, and the Vikings, it's concerning how none of them have any sort of pass rush on the defensive line. Like, they have really no stars on the defensive line. And I feel like with the Bears, their thing has always been defense, right? So being number 1 in the rush defense is great, but to try to shore up that pass defense in the offseason, they also brought over Kevin Byard. No, he was from Chicago, though. Those movies took place in Chicago. Nice callback, Casino.
Thank you. I was very excited about that.
But they brought over him and the safety Jonathan Owens from Green Bay. And then again, every other move was on offense. So this defense, I feel like they'll be better defensively as a unit, but will they still be the number 1 rush defense? I don't know, because they brought in... So Matt Eberflus is returning for his 3rd year. They brought in a new... That's also a great name. New offensive coordinator in Shane Walden, which is his first year as the Bears offensive coordinator. The past 3 years, he was the Seahawks offensive coordinator. And then the defensive coordinator is Eric Washington, who was previously with the Bills for the past 4 years as an assistant coach and a defensive line coach. So they saw they had no pass rush and then brought in a defensive line coach. So maybe the Bears defense will be better. But again, there's too many question marks on this team for me, especially because it's just a brand new team thrown together, basically all put on the shoulders of a rookie quarterback, where everybody's just acting like this is an 11-12 win team and they're just going straight to the playoffs. I don't see it.
Same here.
Yeah.
Who?
So we're both Even though the number changed from 9.5 to 8.5, are you still picking the under for?
Yes, I am.
I think I am too. Again, if this Bears team goes 8-9, I feel like people are going to be disappointed just because the expectations were so high. But if you're 8-9 with a rookie quarterback and a completely new offense and defense, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, I don't know how that's not a win, especially if Caleb Williams is good, right? Like he needs to put up good stats and then not necessarily win games in your rookie year. As long as you look competent, people are going to hype you up going into your second year, because if you don't look good and then you also don't win, everybody's going to be talking about you like you're Bryce Young, which we have done on this podcast. So that's all the divisions, Casino.
That's nice. I have to go work out now before my I forgot I have to be at work an hour early today doing meetings. Review meetings. I mean, I've only been there 3 months, so yeah, I know. Hurry up.
So this has been the Only Sports Podcast. We'll see you on Tuesday, where we'll officially make our Super Bowl picks, review all we've done here, and make any amendments we would like to make to our NFL over-unders list. And
0.
A week from today, week 1, the season starts. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. Adios.
Bye.